Hello everyone, I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our next matchup for UFC Noche. In this one, we have Reese versus Sedriques Dumas. Reese is 7-2 overall as a professional, 3-2 in his last fight, while Dumas is 10-3 as a professional, and likewise 3-2 in his last five. Now, just looking over their last five fights, Reese lost his UFC debut to Cody Brundage, where he went for a triangle and Brundage just simply picked him up, slammed him, finished him with ground pound. Then he got two wins, blowing through Julian Marquez in 40 seconds before winning his first decision to Jose Mendia. But then at UFC 311 this January, he got smashed by Azamat Bukoyev, for lack of a better term. But then he got a win in May against Dusko Todorovic. Meanwhile, Dumas, same boat, 3-2 in his last five. He won against Cody Brundage, where he just simply out-wrestled him. Same with Atir Azmavayev. Then he lost to Nurus Ruzaboyev, where he got caught with the uppercut. I know the eye poke also had a big part to play in it, but still, he got caught nonetheless. Then he rebounded with a win against Denis Tululin, and then in his most recent outing, he lost to Mikhail Alexiachuk at UFC 314. Looking at their overall skill set, they are very similar in being tall, lanky middleweights with overall good games, but each one of them has a flaw, a very big flaw, when it comes to how they overall approach MMA. For Reese, he's 6'4" with 77-inch reach, big middleweight, and more times than not, he has great offensive tools. He's got good power, as shown with Marquez. I know Marquez was past his prime and pretty chinny, but still, blowing him in 40 seconds is still, I think is somewhat impressive. And he's got a good ground game. He, specifically with his guard, he has good submissions off his back, like arm bars and triangles. Now, granted, though, that also leads to a flaw. He's a little too comfortable off his back. And nowadays in MMA, the guard is just not what it used to be. Fighters are just way too smart, hard to get caught in anything dumb, like a triangle or anything like that, unless, they're hurt or something. And Reese just uses it a little too much, and that gets him caught, whether Brundage had the power to pick him up and slam him, or Bukoyev just started wailing him with ground and pound. But when he's using his wrestling and grappling offensively in top control, he's pretty good. He has what I've been thinking is called tall man's wrestling, where it's they use the reach and length to basically just drape over their opponents. You ever seen a spider with its prey out of their legs just kind of drape over them, just encase them, and they can't really get out? It's kind of like that for me, for that analogy with Reese. Actually, same with Dumas, but I'll get to him in a minute. Overall, like I said, Reese's offensive abilities are pretty good, but he did not look great in his last win against Dusko Todorovic. Now, granted, that's also due to the fact that was new coaching staff for Reese, in a new gym. So it's to be somewhat expected. Some fighters have a growing pain when they try new gyms. Usually by their second or third fight, they really get the flow of the training, their coach's advice, just hearing that coach's voice instead of the ones they're used to. So it's just some growing pains, which I believe he can still get over and get some wins, because he's proven at the very least he's beaten the lower end tier of the middleweight division. If you look at the last three wins, one's not in the UFC anymore, and Medina and Tusko are literally fighting each other later up the card. I got some problems with that, which I'll get to in that video. But as for Sedriques Dumas, similar physical specs and same overall game as Reese, 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. During his Contender Series, he had some intrigue, and it certainly would be interesting to see how he learned on the job. Overall, though, he wound up being more of a grinding wrestler, if that's being honest. He has some striking to his game. He also has some good kicks and good dexterity, but more times out of not, his wins comes from grinding wrestling pressure, like he did with Cody Brundage, or in his most recent win against Denis Tululin. Now, granted, I'm not, that's not very impressive either way. Denis Tululin's not in the UFC, and he literally has perfect amount of wins to losses. So, overall, though, there's an X factor to this fight that I know I'm not a mind reader. I ain't Miss Cleo, if you get that reference, but there's definitely some out of cage stuff for Dumas that definitely brings some concerns. So he was originally supposed to schedule to fight at UFC 317, but he had to pull out. The reason is he couldn't get a judge to cut his ankle monitor in time, because he's on probation. So that's something to keep in mind if you're like having these kind of legal troubles where it affects your job. Plus, now I'm not trying to delve into these fighters' personal lives, and for me, it's like it's not my life, it's yours. So I really could care less. Now that being said, when it's like out there in social media for everybody to see, then I'm gonna have to pay attention to someone because I am a predictor or UFC predictor, and I have to factor into effect. Another big part is like you see it on Instagram, Facebook, all that. He's broke. He's literally fine. He literally needs to win badly. Now that's gonna happen in one of two ways. Either A, all this stress and shit is gonna really mess with him mentally, and he may seem really hesitant and a shell of his former self, to where it's like he barely really performs and is just so nervous about like, okay, I really need that win. I need that money. I am desperate. Or two, he fights like a complete savage, just like ready to destroy the man in front of him, which would be Zach Reese, and get the money. One of those two things will happen. Now, I can't really think either one's going to happen until I see him in the cage and the bell rings. But I'm telling you that is something as a factor to put in. But just looking at their overall skill sets as fighters, I lean towards Zach Reese. I think overall he's just a better version of Sedriques Dumas. Better striking, vastly superior ground game. Overall, I know the ground game has cost him, but I don't. But Sedriques Dumas hasn't shown any kind of power to like make me fear the ground and pound. Nor do I think he's going to pull up Brundage and literally pick up Zach Reese and slam him on his head. So I do think Zach Reese is going to be a better grappler. I think he's going to be a better wrestler. I just think he's one step ahead of Sedriques Dumas. The only thing I would fear is, Dumas uses his superior reach on Reese, and that's a possibility, and could hurt him with some straight punches. I don't think Zach Reese has the best chin, but I just think Zach Reese is just one step ahead, and the odds reflect this: minus 275 for Reese, plus 230 for Dumas. I just think Zach Reese is overall better. Just that one little step ahead, and I think he can get a finish in this. I'm leaning towards ground and pound. I can see him getting a takedown on Dumas, securing top position, and just start wailing ground and pound. He might find a submission too. Like I said, he's got good jiu-jitsu, but I'm leaning towards TKO. But with that being said, that has been my prediction for Reese versus Dumas. If you like the video, comment and subscribe. I'd love to hear what you think this fight will go out. Next up, we'll have Jesus Aguilar versus Luis Gurule. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. I'll see you then.